Today, I want to talk to you about the power of time management.
Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here. Over a buyer's market.
You can tear me down.
And of course, as always, I'll see you at the top.
That's right, the power of time management. Now, why are we talking about time management? Well, in our industry, unfortunately, we don't get paid by the hour. At least I don't. And when it comes time to most agents, I know not you, but when it comes time to most agents, unfortunately, they do a poor job of managing their time. And as far as the managing of their time, what you want to do is not only be productive or effective, but you also want to be efficient. You don't want to just be an agent or somebody who's just putting in 6, 8, 10, or even 12 hours in a day and not really getting much accomplished. So let's talk about how to make our day more effective and even better, as I mentioned, making it more efficient. There's 5 key things that we should be doing every single day. Number 1 is working on our skills. Now, I talked about this in a previous video, but we should be investing some time in working on our skills. Number 2 is lead generation. I don't care where you get your business from, but this is the biggest part to our business. I don't care if it's from open houses, from door knocking, from telephone prospecting, from buying business, mailers, farming. I don't care. The thing is that this is a contact sport. And the more conversations we have throughout the day, the more opportunities we'll have to allow success to come our way. Number 3 is lead follow-up. Unfortunately, I know some agents that do an amazing job of telephone prospecting, lead generating. They get all of these people. Even if you buy business, you have all of these interest lists. Unfortunately, don't do a great job of that lead follow-up, which is number 3. Number 4, our job is this, to negotiate contracts. That's what we get paid to do. Number 5 is going on appointments. Every single day, our goal, our purpose, the reason why we're showing up at the office is to do that number 5. But let's specifically talk about the first 3 items. The first 3 items are what I call are controllables. And what I mean by controllables is that you can do all 3 of them infinitely, as much as you possibly can. You can work on your skills as much as you want. You can prospect, lead generate as much as you want. Lead follow-up, maybe there is a little bit of a limit, but even then, there's a lot of people that you can, in a sense, follow up on based on, all the people you've spoken with in the past. Of these 3 things, hear me out, listen, pay attention. You should be investing 80% of your day, 80. So if you're putting in about 8 hours of the day, you should be investing 6.5 hours of your day on those 3 things. Some of you are basically sitting there asking yourself, man, I don't do that much. I don't really work on my skills. I don't really do too much lead generation. Sure, I'll do some lead follow-up, but not every day. Well, those are controllables. Those are money-making activities. Those can allow you the opportunity to move your business forward. Now, this is vital to your business. And the reason why it's vital is because of those 3 things, it's going to allow you the opportunity to create a sustainable business model. Now, when you're not doing them consistent, unfortunately, that's where agents will close a deal or 2 in a month, not have a closing another month, not have another closing another month, maybe even go 3 or 4 months without a closing, and then they go back and close another deal, maybe 2. That's the yo-yo business. That's the roller coaster business. Get off of it. Okay. So creating a sustainable business by doing the activities that's going to lead you to the results. If you notice, I didn't really talk too much about the admin side of things. I really didn't talk too much about the organizing of your desk. I really didn't talk about the managing of your database, all of these things. Now, are they important? Of course they are. Okay. But those 3 things, just for the simplicity of what we do every single day, that's really how we get business done. Unfortunately, we try to become very creative. It's no different than going to the gym and trying to lose weight. We know the simplicity of it. Eat less, eat better, work out. Okay. But what do? We don't eat less. We don't eat better. And sure, we'll go to the gym ever so often. And then we're wondering why we're not getting the results that we want. It's the same thing in our business. So I want you to pay close attention to that. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask yourself this question. If you look back at this year's effort, and if you were to grade yourself, you look at, if you were evaluating yourself, would you either A, or number one, give yourself a raise and or a promotion? Number two, give yourself a demotion, or even worse, number three, fire yourself. Now, this is a valid question because this, unfortunately, is what you, the CEO, are paying yourself, Mr. President, Mrs. President. And unfortunately, a large percentage of agents, they'll sit there and say, yeah, I definitely do not deserve a promotion. That's for sure. So those are the things that I want you to pay attention to. Of course, there's a lot more that we're going to go over, but those are just the simplicities of the day. The problem is that we overcomplicate our day with all of this creativity, but we don't do those three things. That's the yo-yo diet. That's the taking these pills. That's the I'm going to try this fad. All of these things. Keep it that simple. Now, what I also want you to pay attention to is the distractions. Distractions cost you money. Now, these distractions show up in so many different forms. Distractions could just simply be, maybe not doing with what you're supposed to, maybe spending too much time on social media, maybe looking busy, emails, texts, things that you're not necessarily supposed to. How about, doing some window shopping on the computer? Or how about just having too many personal conversations, being at the water cooler a little too long? All of these things don't lead to income. I mean, unless, of course, you're doing some of these things outside and you're talking to people about real estate, then that's a little bit different. But you're not looking at selling or helping another agent in the office buy. Okay. So those are some of the things that I want you to pay really close attention to. And of course, these things can, of course, cost you money. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to create a trackable schedule. And in this trackable schedule, and I've seen this being a coach for as long as I've been, I get agents to say, oh, coach, you know what? I got a great schedule. It's tight, it's perfect. I have it all color coordinated. And then they show me their Google Calendar. They show me their variation of this schedule. The problem, though, is that it's kind of static, meaning I don't know how much of it they're actually doing. Sure, it looks pretty. Sure, it looks like it's good in theory. But what I'd rather do is create a schedule that's going to allow some version of trackability. And what do I mean by trackability? Well, I personally like to just kind of put it on an Excel spreadsheet of the tasks that I want to do for the day. And in that, having a small little column where I can check things off, or even better, put the result of that particular task. Now, what would be an example? Well, if you're prospecting, you could put the number of contacts that you made for the day versus, yes, I prospected. Sure. Did you talk to 2 people? Did you talk to 50 people? There's a difference. Okay? And in the same thing in regards to, how often are you doing it in terms of consistency over the course of the week? So you can have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if you work on Saturday, feel free, be my guest. And in this gives you the opportunity to go ahead and be able to track this. This is one of the things that I do with my coaching clients. And I'm able to look at what I call as micro coaching. I don't like to do this too often because it comes across a little bit like babysitting, but it is important because when an agent is doing what they say they're supposed to be doing over the course of maybe 3 months, coach, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do. And then I go and look at the schedule and I see, no, you're not doing with what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing a percentage. You might be doing 20%, you might be doing 50%, but yet you're expecting 100% results. It doesn't work that way. It's no different than going back to the example of the gym. You can't go and have the salad the one time. You can't go to the gym the one time. And then all of a sudden you go on the scale on Friday or Saturday and you expect to lose some weight. It doesn't work that way. You have to be consistent. You have to be regimented. You have to have that discipline. You have to just be consistent and do this over an extended period of time. Now, let's talk about, how about this question? Actually, let's move in this direction, better yet. How many of you have a challenge in terms of following your schedule? Even though you have a version of a schedule, how many of you have that challenge? I guess the better question is why? Why do you have that challenge? And I can tell you, part of the reason for you not following your schedule is simply because of the fact that you don't know with what you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing. So in other words, this particular activity is going to get me those results. Okay. The reason I'm having this salad, the reason I'm having my meal prepped, the reason I'm working out X number of whatevers is because the goal is to get to here. Unfortunately, a lot of agents don't have goal set. They don't have any particular reasons why they're showing up for the day, aka your why, if you want to call it that. The reason I don't like to call it the why is because in most cases it's not one thing, it's a variety of things. And having your goals is ideally going to help you move this forward. So having clearly defined goals will ideally put you in a position, again, this is the reason why you're not following your schedule. So then you go back and you look at why or what that you need to do so that you can go ahead and move forward. Now, in that, I use this example in another video, and I'll use it again in another video, but I use with what I call as the plank analogy. And the plank analogy is the following. If I challenged you, and then I don't want to take credit for this because this came straight out of a book, and I apologize for the ending result of the example, but it comes straight out of a book. And if you know the book, please give them credit. I didn't put this together. But using this analogy, the plank analogy, if I challenged you $100 to walk across a plank that is 3 feet wide, 3 feet off the ground, from one side of the street to the other side of the street, and I challenged you $100, would you take that bet? Again, remember, 3 feet wide, 3 feet high, from one side of the street to the other side of the street. So it'd basically be walking on your desk, if you want to call it, from one side of the street to the other side of the street. How many of you would take that bet? 99 out of 100 would. Yeah. I don't get it. Give me the $100. I'll run across this. At worst case, I jump off. Well, that with what I'm describing is an employee mindset. That's basically showing up, clocking in, clocking out, and getting a paycheck. That's the guarantees of with what we do. Well, that's not how we get paid. So now we use analogy number two, which is still the same exact plank analogy. We still have the same width, which is 3 feet wide, same distance from one side of the street to the other side of the street. However, this time it's no longer 3 feet off the ground. This time it's 100 stories in the air. How many of you would now take that bet? Probably not. I think in 10 years I've asked that question. I only had one person say yes. Sure. If your life's worth $100, have at it. But most of you are going to say no, right? And the reason why I say this is because that's similar to an agent showing up and not knowing, or there's just not enough value. You're not going to have that motivation. You're not going to have that drive. You're not going to have that desire. You're not going to do the things that you're supposed to be doing because you don't know, or the $100 just isn't worth it. And that's how you go about your day every single day. But what if we change the circumstances and the reward for the example, which is the third example? Now we have the exact same plank, okay, analogy number three with the exact same plank, 3 feet wide, same distance from one side of the street to the other side of the street, okay? We're still 100 stories in the air. However, in this example, the third one, now in the other building is your prized possession or your most loved individual or individuals. Now that building is on fire. No one can save them. Okay, so no one can come up. The only person that can save them is you. Would you now cross that plank and go and save your loved ones? I would say yes. And majority of you are actually saying yes as well. At that point in time, if I offered you $100, you probably would get offended. Now, what I'm describing is this. You have clarity. You know the purpose. You know why you're going from one side of the plank to the other side of the plank. This is having a schedule, having it backed with your goals. And when you have clearly defined goals, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that you're accomplishing your goals. Okay. Now, let's continue to move forward. Now, if you're in a position Let's talk about this because this happens as well. Well, coach, I've identified my goals. I'm still not following my schedule. A good percentage of the time, or the reason why that happens is because the goals that you put on there are not inspiring goals. They're just kind of goals that if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And there's different types of goals. This isn't the video on goals. We'll talk about that in a course in another video. However, in that, you have to have goals that are going to be specific, that are ideally going to drive you. I like to break them down in a couple of different categories. Number one is going to be business goals. Business goals are going to be things along the line of the number of units, the amount of income, hiring an assistant, having an office, having the corner office, opening an office, having a buyer's agent, having staff, things along that nature, winning a certain award. The second one is material. Material, this is kind of the fun ones: buying the cars, the houses, the boats, the trips, the jewelry, the clothing, the all of this stuff. That's spending money, using money, being able to accomplish it. That's, of course, number two, which is the material goals. Number three is personal goals. Now, personal goals are a little bit harder to identify because in this, you can't buy them. You have to earn them. How do you earn them? Well, think of goals along the line of reading X amount of books. How about losing, or for that matter, gaining a certain amount of weight? How about like running a marathon? Um, having a stronger spiritual relationship, having a deeper emotional connection with an individual. You can't buy that stuff. You have to be able to earn that, which is the personal goals, which is number three. There's even a fourth category, and that's basically the action steps that you need to take behind it. Now, let's say, for example, you have 5 material, 5 business, 5 personal, and then you don't have to have 15 action steps. You could just do 2 or 3. Follow my schedule 80% of the time. That's a good one. Hiring an assistant, having my systems down pat, mastering my database, things of that nature. So those are just kind of some things that you'll want to be able to identify. I would even encourage you to take the next step further, is separate them from year number 1, year number 3, 5, and for that matter, even 10. So you can have 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals in each one of those different categories. This ideally is going to drive you to follow your schedule. And by following your schedule, of course, the idea is to get better results, which is what we want, isn't it? So pay close attention to in regards to that. Now, let's take a look at this. As far as the mastering of your schedule, it's a habit. Okay. And as far as the habit is concerned, it takes time. It takes time to create this habit. I have some coaching clients where we'll go 6, 7, 8 months, even a year, and they're still having a hard time following their schedule. Okay. I can give them the tools. I can show them with what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, it's still up to them in regards to whether they're motivated or not motivated. I can't motivate people. I mean, I can give you the ideas, I can give you the concept, I can give you, but I can't be that internal drive for you as to why or what you're going to do as that driving force. So you have to be able to create that habit. Just like anything else, it takes time. And you have to be able to be consistent at it. It's not going to work after a week. It's not going to work after a month. It may take a year or two before you finally start to realize, oh, here we go. This is what I'm supposed to do. Be at the office at this time, work on my skills, do my prospecting, do my lead follow-up, do some admin, work on my systems, do the social media video, negotiate that contract, prepare for that appointment. All of these things, those are things that I want you to, in a sense, pay attention to. And the creating of the schedule. Another thing that is important in the creation of the schedule is creating what I call our minimum standards. And minimum standards is you want to be able to say, I will do no less than. What's an example? Well, I would do no less than 2 role plays. I will do no less than 20 contacts, 30, 40, 50 contacts. You can even break that down. Let's say, for example, the goal is to do 50 contacts. Well, I'm going to do no less than 10 from this source. I'm going to do another 5 from this source. I'm going to do another 5 from this other source, and then 10 from this other source. Wait a minute, that's actually 30. Well, the key is making sure that it's a minimum standard. So the goal is to continue to move this thing forward. Okay. So I would encourage you, and again, break that down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever days you're actually going to be putting into the office. Now, The other thing I want you to do is going back to the identifying the right goals. Sometimes it could be singular, sometimes it could be multiple goals. Now you have to pay close attention because this has to be that driving, that burning desire. And if it's not it, you're going to have to revisit it. Let me give you an example. So, as as a youngster growing up here in Southern California, we didn't get the chance to go to Disneyland too often. But when we did you think I looked forward to it? Absolutely. Okay. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Well, because of the fact that in most cases, I mean, I wasn't, the greatest, strongest in terms of kids and wanting to go to school. Okay. Like most people. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But if your parents said you're going to be going to Disneyland tomorrow, I was the kind of person that would actually have my shoes ready, my clothes ready. I would actually even set an alarm to make sure that I would get up nice and early. And in most cases, I get up before the dusk of dawn. I was motivated, right? So the analogy that I'm giving you is you want to be in a position where you can identify things that will drive you, that will put you in a position that's going to allow you the opportunity to move your business forward by following a specific schedule. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to cut I want you to cut your schedule into three main parts. The three main parts is basically everything from the time you wake up till about noon. That's for finding business. And then from about noon to 3, that is for managing business. That's the administrative side of things. And then the third one, of course, is the afternoon, and that is for attending and, of course, going out to the appointments, and that's for getting business. Mastering your schedule requires discipline. It's no different than trying to, again, losing weight, trying to get fit, trying to have a certain physique. Okay. I'm at the time of recording this 47 years of age. Okay. The last time I remember seeing my abs, I was probably about 14. Okay. And even then, I didn't see all of them. Right. But the goal is almost every year is to have some version of a fitness goal to where I could potentially get abs or whatever it may be. Well, I guess maybe abs have not been that important to me because it's been, 30 some years since I've actually seen my abs. My point being is in regards to this, you have to be specific in your goals of with what it is that you want, and you have to be consistent in order for you to get the results that you want. Last but not least, you have to make your morning concrete. It's got to be untouchable. This sets the tone for the day. And the reason why I say this is because when you start off on the wrong foot, your day just goes in that same exact direction. I'm going to prospect later. I'm going to work on my skills later. I'll do the lead follow up later. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this fire. I'm going to follow up on this email. I'm going to, return that call. Well, you know what happens. You take care of that. And then afterwards, you're drained, negative energy. You don't want to actually move forward based on what it is that we're talking about here. So you have to make your morning routine absolutely concrete based on what I just said. There's a lot of other details that we can go into the depthness of this, but of course, I always want to keep these videos right around 20, maybe 30 minutes of time. But I do want to be able to give you some depth and some value so that you can be able to apply some of these things. Hopefully, this is helpful. And of course, as always, I'm going to ask you to subscribe, like, comment, but most importantly, I want you to share this so that you can, of course, spread the word, get the knowledge out there. So again, Robert Villanueva here. Hopefully this was an important and valuable video. I'll see you at the top.
Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here.